Hi there, I'm Vincent Bos, and I'm a life coach, relationship coach, and breakup coach. You can change the language of this podcast in the YouTube video settings. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing No Contact 3.0. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Subscribe to my weekly support emails. The link is in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing No Contact 3.0. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you want to follow the best strategy. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing 3 points to consider about the newest version of the No Contact rule, No Contact 3.0. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is original No Contact rule. Now let me know in the comments what type of a No Contact rule that you currently follow. Let me know in the comments and let's see what the community thinks. But first of all, we're going to be concentrating on the original No Contact rule, which I myself haven't believed in for a good long while. I didn't have success in my own personal life using it, and as a coach, for the number of years that I've been doing this job, I've seen very little evidence to suggest that it can actually find success. In fact, I would go as far to say that when people suggest that it has occasionally worked, that in reality, the dust had never really settled within the breakup. The relationship, in a sense, had never truly ended. And what you could suggest is instead it had been more of a break rather than a breakup, because the length of time which had passed, the fact it reconnected the way it did, well, I just don't really believe that this would have been due to the 30-day no contact rule. And instead, because this relationship was likely never really dead in that sense anyway. But it is still important that we talk about the 30-day no contact rule, because unfortunately it is still widely spread online, and like I said, from what I have seen, it has a very low success rate, and even the situations which claim to be a success, I don't really put down to using this version of a rule, more along the lines that the relationship was actually still technically alive. But let's look at the 30-day no contact rule for just a moment, and we can consider how it actually is supposed to play out. So if you have been dumped, according to the 30-day no contact rule, you shouldn't contact your ex, even if they reach out to you during that 30-day period. So if you have been dumped and your ex-dumper reaches out to you after 5 days, for instance, 10 days, 20 days, you do not reply. That is what the 30-day no contact rule suggests that you do. Then, on the 30th day, what you are supposed to do is reach out to your dumper. So you as a dumpee are supposed to not reach out to your ex, even if they reach out to you, but on the 30th day, you reach out to them. And then supposedly, this is going to create a reconnection. Now again, as I've said throughout today's podcast, I've not really seen success through this. I do not believe it helps. And if we just break down the reasons why I feel this way, first of all, if your ex-dumper reaches out at any point, I suggest you respond. If you ignore someone, even if they have dumped you, that is not moving things forward in a positive way. And I can tell you from speaking with dumpers themselves that they will only likely reach out so many times. Sometimes that number is 1. Okay, so if your ex-dumper reaches out to you and you don't respond, even if you then send a message yourself after the 30th day, in their mind, unfortunately, it might be over. That might be that. They've already ended the relationship because they were not happy. They've then reached out to you theoretically 20 days down the line. You've ignored them. Do you think that has actually helped matters? Sadly, most of the time it hasn't. So if you think of it from that perspective, that isn't going to help. Now let's imagine that your ex-dumper hasn't reached out to you at all in 30 days, and then on the 30th day you reach out. Again, do you think that's going to help? your ex-dumper would not have had opportunity to regrow romantic emotional attraction, which is the only reason they will get back in a relationship with you. They need to regrow that level of attraction and needs to hit the necessary high point, and 30 days is not likely to be enough time for that to be possible. So even though, as I've just explained, the 30-day no contact rule doesn't really have a good success rate, it doesn't really have any evidence per se of how it can help you as a dumpee, it is widely put out there online. It is something I'm sure you've come across. It's probably something that you may have even tried. So again, let me know in the comments how you've got on with the 30-day no contact rule. From my own personal life, many years ago, it didn't work for me. And since I've been doing this job since 2018 as a coach, I've not seen any evidence to suggest that it's helped people either. But that is the original version of no contact. But luckily, things did evolve, and this is where things start to get interesting. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please give this video a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel to keep updated. And point number 2 is the current best version of no contact. So this is something that you may have heard me discuss in other podcasts in what I call my version of a no contact rule. I obviously believe in my version, because else why would I be promoting it as the version that I believe will give you that best possible chance of success? But we have to consider that things are always moving, evolving and growing, and we will get to more of that, about what I mean, a little bit later. But let's just concentrate on my version of a rule for now. Now, my version of a rule has some base principles, but there are caveats, because every situation is unique, every situation is somewhat different, and therefore, unless I speak with you one-on-one via my audio coaching service, I can't say definitively for precise situations that I would suggest you do or you don't do this or do that, because I don't know your specifics. However, what I can tell you as a base principle that I believe in most instances, most, not necessarily all, but in most instances, if you have been dumped, you should never contact your ex again unless they contact you first. That is something that we need to focus on as a base principle. So, unlike the 30-day no contact rule, first of all, you shouldn't be reaching out to your ex-dumper unless they've reached out to you first. But also, something to include in my version of a rule, if your ex-dumper does reach out to you, you should respond, irrespective of the time. It doesn't matter if it's 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years. Of course, if you receive contact from your ex and you are no longer wanting to have any conversation, any communication at all, maybe you're in a new relationship or whatever the case may be, then of course you don't have to do that. But let's just say theoretically, you're in a position where you would like to have a conversation with your ex 2 years down the line and they reach out to you. Yes, I would suggest you would respond, just as I would if they'd reached out after 2 days. So if your ex reaches out, yes, you respond, but if they don't reach out, you don't make contact with them. Now, another element of my version of the rule is that this, what I've said so far, is all about unnecessary contact, okay? If necessary contact is involved, then you must use your common sense. So what that means, and I always like to use this example, if you have left your work laptop at your ex-dumper's house, yes, you need to reach out to them, okay? Because it's your work laptop, you need it, you need to reach out to your ex-dumper. Don't be thinking, well, I'm not allowed to reach out to my ex, so I can't. Now, if it's necessary, you do that, but you keep things on point. You don't start deviating. Maybe you think, well, this could be an opportunity for me to try to get my ex back. Maybe I should flirt with them. No, keep it on point. Send a message. Maybe you could add, hi, hope you're well, just to let you know I've remembered I've left my work laptop at your house. Please, can we arrange so I can pick it up? Okay, you just keep things on point. If your ex-dumper wants to grow things beyond that, then yes, you go with the flow, but you shouldn't be the person who is instigating that change of conversational direction. Now, what I've spoke about so far in point number 2 are the baseline principles of my version of a no contact rule. But like I said, it's flexible depending on your specifics. Maybe there is a very unique specific reason why you as a dumpee should reach out to your ex-dumper. But I would very much doubt that I would suggest you do it on the 30th day post-breakup. And in fact, I very much doubt I would suggest it at all. Very, very occasionally, I have suggested it to my audio coaching clients, but they have had very, very specific, unique circumstances. So, as you can see, I can describe the baseline principles in a general sense, but unless I speak with you, I can't say for certain all of the extra dynamics. Now, the other important element is that when you are not in contact with your ex-dumper, you're not just sitting at home alone. No, you're concentrating on you rather than them. You are growing every single day. You are becoming a better person today than you were yesterday, and a better person tomorrow than you are currently today. You are heading towards becoming a version 2.0 of yourself. This is why it is so important to focus on you and not your ex. Because if you concentrate on your dumper, you will not have the time or energy to improve as a person. And this is a really strong fundamental pillar of my version of a no contact rule. Okay, you're not contacting your ex, but you are using that time wisely. Because when you are not with your ex, guess what? It means you've got more time available, more time to grow, to improve, whether it is creative, whether it is regarding your work life, whether it is your health and fitness. You now have more opportunity than ever to do things. The one benefit of being single is you likely have more time now than when you were in a relationship. So make use of that time. You need to be someone that if your ex-dumper does contact again, they are blown away by your improvements and the growth you have shown. It's really, really vital that you showcase this change. Remember, if your ex has reached out to you in a way where they're somewhat wondering about you, somewhat missing you, that is showing things are already turning. If you then showcase positive improvement, you're going to blow them away. Okay? You're going to shock them and them thinking, wow, I was starting to miss my dumpee a little bit. And now I've heard and I've seen about what they've done and how they've changed. Now I really am feeling that attraction grow. And that is what can be the difference. So that is why my version of a no contact rule is not actually about your ex, it's actually about you. Because if you don't get your ex back, you will be a better person than you've ever been before. And hence, you will be able to find a new partner even better than your ex. Now, I know you don't want to think of it like that, but you need to consider it as win-win. You can't lose. You will either get your ex back or you will find someone even better. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. This is the best and diamond level of support that I can provide. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the buildup of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is no contact 3.0. So this is where we see the evolution of my version of a no contact rule moving forward to the present day. So what I've said to you already about my version of a rule, those principles still remain. There's nothing that I've changed in that regard. So keeping those fundamentals is vital. But what I have done in creating No Contact 3.0 is increasing the power of what you're creating. Now, what that means is it will put you in a better position to reattract your ex, and also a better position to find someone potentially even better than your ex. So let me talk about the 2 additional elements to make my version of a no contact rule, and in essence, no contact 3.0, from where we have all began back in the day when there was only about 30-day rule available. Now, the first thing to say is there is a contemporary modern problem that I have seen breakups showcase, and that is what I would suggest we can just call in general shared accounts. Now, let's use probably the most common shared account: streaming services, Spotify, Netflix, those types of things that when a breakup has taken place, both of you still have access to the account. Now, this causes multiple problems. Firstly, some people try to draw conclusions from what they can tell. If they can somehow find out what their ex-dumper has been viewing or listening to, this can create thoughts and feelings in the dumpee's mind. And this can play tricks on them. It can be very, very negative. At the end of the day, unless your ex-dumper has reached out to you, they are not likely ready to reconnect with you. So irrespective of what they're doing, listening, watching, it isn't going to help you unless they reach out. So you finding out what they're doing, you tracking what they're doing, you paying too much attention to what they are doing is going to cause you anguish. It's going to cause you anxiety. So I would suggest in No Contact 3.0 is that you focus amongst everything else on making sure you remove the shared services. Now, if for instance you were the person paying and now you're kind of kicking your ex off that payment plan or whatever it may be, I would always suggest that you give it a month's grace. Now, the reason for that is going back to point number one, that 30-day no contact rule, where I said very, very occasionally you might see somebody say they had success. Well, I actually believe the relationship was never really dead if it recovered within that time frame. And hence, I think that maybe you should give your ex a month's grace. Don't kick them off a plan that maybe you were paying for you both. Keep them on it for at least a month. Just see if things have come round. What I mean by that is that if your ex-dumper has reached out to you, you should respond, remember, and if you have, reconnected. If that hasn't actually taken place, then once we get into the second month and beyond, yes, I think you should remove them from that plan. They shouldn't be getting gold membership off you after they've dumped you, but you should be giving them, I believe, a month's grace just to see what happens. But removing those shared services is going to protect your mental health and enable you to move forward in a more positive way. Because if you are gaining anxiety through what they are viewing and listening to, you are much more likely to reach out, and that isn't going to help you. Additionally, you're going to find it much harder to concentrate on you rather than them, which of course is another important principle of my version of no contact. Now, the next part of the new version of No Contact 3.0 is that I would like you to be creating an avatar in your mind, so to speak, of what your ideal person would be. Now, what that means is you're thinking about it, you might even write it down, exactly what the person you would like to be in your life looks like, acts like, is like. Every single thing about them. That's why we call it creating an avatar. Now, you might think, well, it's just my ex. But I would ask you to think deeper. Maybe you believe your ex is perfect, but really think about it. Are there some things that you would tweak about your ex's personality if you could? Some things that you don't really like? I want you to write down and really figure out exactly the avatar of the perfect person for you. Maybe it does closely resemble your ex. Maybe you give yourself a surprise. At that point, I want you to then consider what type of person that avatar would be attracted to. And when you consider that combined, you can then see if it is something A, manageable, and B, that you truly want to do to become that person. Now, it is really important that you really think about, do you want to become that person? Because if you don't, well, you can only act for so long. So there is no point in wasting your time and energy being someone that you're not. Sadly, it might become apparent that the person that the avatar, which might be your ex, actually wants is never really going to be you. And maybe you can start to see why sadly your relationship ended. But it doesn't mean that you can't find someone who does match the person that you are. It might just give you a helping hand in understanding what actually went wrong. But there is always the possibility that you do believe you would like to become the person that the avatar would like, but you do believe you can become that person, and hence the next element of my version of No Contact 3.0 is that you focus your time and energy becoming the person that the avatar, which may or may not be your ex, would actually want to be in a relationship with.